Welcome to Real Estate Radio Live, an informative and engaging hour discussing everything you need to know about the world of real estate. Your host, Joe Kuchera, provides you with insight and guidance on how to buy, sell, finance, and invest in real estate. He also offers real estate tax management strategies, new construction advice, home improvement tips, and much, much more. And now, to guide you around the world of real estate, here's your host and Real Estate Radio Live team leader, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome in, Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. As we continue through the week, I have a great topic. Actually, it might be a little boring topic for someone, but or some out there, or it might be interesting. We're going to talk a little bit today about debt. That's right, debt. It is part of our society. It is part of everything we do. And we're going to talk a little bit about debt in general, and then we're going to talk a little bit about good debt, bad debt, student debt, a little bit of business debt, everything that really consumes us that we use as consumers. And we're going to overview that. Just kind of talk a little bit about the different types and get into a general topic and education process about debt. All right, before we start doing that, just a couple of reminders. We're with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, from 3 to 4 Pacific Daylight Time. You can tune in and listen to us live on the radio at KDOW 1220 AM. You can also go online during this time period to kdow.biz. That's kdow.biz. And you could click on the button that says Listen Live, and you could listen to us anywhere online during this time period. Also, we're streaming live on Facebook if everything goes well, and we're here in the studio. We'll be streaming live online every day on Facebook. So love to continue getting the feedback and information from those Facebook viewers. Keep sending us those emails. Text, little conversation, dialogue in between the show. Just for those tuning in on Facebook, remember that this is a live show for 1 hour. However, we take 4 breaks. We take 3 different breaks during the 1 hour. So as you're tuning in, watching us on Facebook, just be aware that we have 2 to 3 minute breaks in between some of these 4 segments. Also, be sure to download the podcast. You could do that by going to iTunes and typing in Real Estate Radio Live. And you could download the podcast there, or you could always go to our website, reradiolive.com. Lastly, if you want to get your calls on the show while we're doing the live portion, it's 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. You can give us a call, or you could text those questions in 408-838-9060. That's the way to communicate with us during the show. All right, let's talk a little bit about debt and just an overview, really. When most people think about debt, you probably hear the national debt. It's in the trillions. You also hear we talk a lot about student debt, different debts, credit card debt, mortgage debt, business loans, SBA loans. There's all kinds of different debt, of course, out there. Personal loans. So we're going to cover a little bit as much as we can here. So debt in general, in most cases, unfortunately, has a bad name. But we're going to talk a little bit about some good debt, if we can, as well, as we go through the show today. So debt in general is what I just covered. Many different types of debt. Many different types of debt. Now, what is some of the good stuff we could talk about debt? Well, you need debt, believe it or not, to establish credit. Some people might be out there saying, I don't want any debt at all. I don't believe in debt. There's a lot of people like that, which is great. And but when you get started, when you get established, let's take a person that's young and maybe just trying to establish himself in the marketplace, maybe you're just getting out of school or you're in college, you just got your first job. The debt part that is good is when you establish yourself and get a credit card, let's say, and you get a credit card and it's in your name and you have a certain line amount on that credit card, right? So what you could do with that credit card is you could make purchases, and that actually allows you to start establishing debt. Allows you to start establishing the debt. That's good, because that's how you get credit. See, the frustrating part is our system is set up to where you have to establish credit in order to do business with people, in order to get loans, in order to get credit cards, in order to get a car loan, in order ultimately to get something like a mortgage. You have to establish credit. Unfortunately, you could save all your money, pay cash for everything, and this may sound a little crazy, but you could pay cash for everything your entire life, and maybe you're now in your late 20s or early 30s, you decide to buy a house, and you go to a mortgage, you go to a lender like someone like me, and we pull your credit, and there's no credit established. And you say, what's the problem? I want to buy a house. I have great credit. Matter of fact, my credit's so good, I have no credit. That's how good my credit is. So it's a little bit strange, but the dynamic and the part of this process is that you have to establish credit along the way somehow, in order to get these businesses to do business with you. Well, you might say, the common sense, you might say, Joe, why would I have to go in debt or get a credit card or get an auto loan or, any of these types of things? Why would I have to do that to establish credit when I have all cash? And that's a good question. Here's exactly the reason why the companies that want to do business with you want to see the trade lines, what's called on your credit report, in debt. Here's why. They want you to prove to them and the world that you could establish credit, you could get a credit card, you could get an auto loan, you could get a loan for furniture or a personal loan. What they want to see is they want to see you act in a responsible manner. In other words, they want to see you get a credit card, get an auto loan, start making your payments, make your payments on time, finish those payments, pay that loan off completely, satisfied in full. So that is an example of establishing credit. Now, for some, this sounds fairly simple and fairly easy, but remember, a lot of listeners of the show are first-time home buyers, or they're thinking of buying a home for the first time, and this kind of stuff could help you to establish credit. Now, some people will get cosigners, and, eventually you want to do this stuff on your own. Sometimes cosigners are necessary early on, right out of the gate. So this is why the industry, so to speak, in the world in which we live in right now, wants for you to establish credit, so that you could establish a pattern. You could show us whether you're a good risk or a bad risk. So what happens, let's talk about leading up to getting a mortgage financing, which is really kind of the ultimate when it comes to people financing something. You kind of start usually with credit cards, then personal loans, then auto loans, and then eventually you may graduate to you get a mortgage loan for a home. And so when you get to that point, when you get a mortgage loan, they want to see established credit. All right. In our world, usually we want to see at least what's called three trade lines. So 3 trade lines would be, okay, I have an American Express card, I have a Visa, and maybe I have a Sears card or a Macy's card or something like that. Established credit. You have to establish credit. Even people coming into the United States, there are loan programs for people coming into the United States who don't have any U.S. credit at all. But if they're going to be in the United States for a while, they start establishing credit. And it's really important. It's important to do that. So that's kind of step one. Now, when you come to, let's say, get a mortgage, we're going to pull your credit. We're going to look at your credit, and we're going to make sure you have at least 3 trade lines. And then, of course, most of you understand that along with debt, you acquire a credit scoring system. There's a credit scoring system. And that, I think it's anywhere from, goes as low as in the 300s all the way up to 850 or something like that. So that's how you establish credit. And then we're going to pull your credit report. As long as you have 3 trade lines as a minimum, then you're going to have established scores. And let's say you're somewhere in the mid to 700s. You're good to go. That's one of the components of securing a home mortgage. Now, not all credit and not all debt is good. And I'm not going to get too much into the credit scoring stuff because I'm not an expert at that, and it's really confusing, and that's a whole different topic. So we're going to just cover debt in general is the key here to cover. So now you're establishing a mortgage, let's say, and when we do this, that is really one of the first things you could do to really get elevated to a level where your credit has been established now, almost to the upper tier, for instance. It doesn't mean that if you don't get a mortgage, it won't, but this is usually what people lead up to in terms of trying to do that. So that is kind of leading up to what do I do? How do I establish credit? Once I establish the credit, what kind of things do I need to know? I just wanted to give you kind of a summary in general, the basic idea of credit and debt and how it works. Now, just because you open a credit card doesn't mean that you have to hold a high balance, or doesn't mean that it has to have any balance at all. You could pay it off every month and you're still going to have established credit. All right, what we're going to do right now is I'm going to take a break. When I come back, I'm going to continue talking about debt. We're going to get into more details about some additional good debt. We're going to talk about bad debt. We're going to talk a little bit about student debt and much, much more. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. If you have any questions, give us a call, 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. I'll be back with you in just a couple minutes.
That's RERadiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending, and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I'm with you 5 days a week, Monday through Friday. Be sure to tune in a couple different ways real quick. You could tune in on the radio, KDOW 1220 AM. Also listen to us online if you go to KDOW.biz. We're streaming live on Facebook every day as long as we are in the studio, so keep an eye on that. For those that are listening to the radio out there, tune in. See if you can catch us on Facebook, and also, most importantly for everyone, be sure to download the podcast. That way, if you happen to miss the show, you can catch us anytime at your convenience. You could go to iTunes and type in Real Estate Radio Live, or you could go to RERadiolive.com, and you could download the podcast there. All right, today's topic is debt. Understanding debt, the basic parts of debt, why we need it, how we establish credit. Some of the basic stuff, for most of you listening, you might think, Joe, I know all this stuff. It's pretty basic. And the reason why I do start with some basics, because, you know, a lot of times you just don't know who your audience is. In this case, certainly we have a diverse audience. And what I mean by that is we have a lot of the younger people listening, either on the radio or mostly on podcasts, honestly. If you look at the numbers with us, the older generation will tend to listen to us on the radio and on podcasts, but primarily the younger generation will listen to us by podcast or Facebook only. So the reason that's important is I'm speaking to a lot of people and educating a lot of people who have not bought a home. and want to buy a home for the first time, or trying to establish credit, or maybe they don't even understand what the credit and debt situation is with them. So I'm going to cover some basics, and so for some people that have already been established, a lot of this may sound very ordinary or simple, and I apologize for that, but I really like to go over the basics to help those that have not established credit, or for those, for instance, that haven't bought a house yet, and we're going to educate a little bit about that. So I went through the first segment. I begin kind of about a generalization of debt. Again, just to summarize, it's pretty simple. You have good debt and bad debt. We talked a little bit about the good debt in the first segment. There's debt to establish your credit. If you open a credit card, or if you open an account with a department store, or maybe get an auto loan, all those things are establishing credit, and you're having some debt along the way. Now, that's part of the game, and a lot of people get started that way. The part that I want to really discuss for just a minute or so and make sure that everybody is hopefully in tune with is that when you establish credit within your means. When you establish credit, it doesn't mean you get in over your head, or you go into debt, or you max out credit cards. I think a lot of people that either aren't educated, number one, or number two, all of a sudden you start thinking, wow, this is great, I could just charge the plastic, right? That's where you get in trouble. A lot of us have done it. I remember when I was young, I did not have much money at all growing up. My family didn't have much money. And so the first sense that you could start getting your hands on a little bit of money, I'll be honest, I was a little irresponsible. I maxed out some credit cards. Luckily, I was able to pay them off, but in a period of time, it did. It took me a period of time until I started making some good money, and then I paid them off quickly once I did that. But in the meantime, I was making the minimum payments, for a couple of years when I was young, and I knew it was an obligation. I wasn't real happy with myself, but I did it. So it was a lesson, and you want to try to avoid that when you're getting started. Credit card debt in general is some of the worst debt. And the reason why is a couple of different reasons. One, it's usually high interest rate. Usually, a lot of times they have the teaser rates with, 1.5%, 2% to start for the first 6 months or first years, or transfer balance for 1% for the first 12 months. Those kinds of things are good. But then after that teaser period's over, then those rates usually go up. So credit cards are usually 10, 12, 15%. And that's not good. There's two reasons why that's not good. That's really steep interest rate debt. The worst part about it, the second thing that is really compounds the problem with credit cards, is that it's bad debt in the terms that it's not tax deductible. In other words, you can't write off the interest on your credit cards. Maybe on a business. I'm just talking about personally now, and I'm not a CPA, so I'm not going to get into the ins and outs of what you could do on a business card. So on a personal credit card, you cannot write off the interest. Okay? So those are some of the reasons why credit card debt are typically, historically, is the worst kind of debt that you could have, credit card debt. Now you have other things, of course. You have student debt. This is one of the things that some people thought it was going to surpass the mortgage debt. It has not. I'm not sure that it ever will. There was some thought about that. There is the educational, the student debt is in the trillions, and it is a troublesome issue. It really is. And the reason why is a lot of the people that get these loans, let's face it, it's an exciting time for some people when they get out of high school and they go into college. And let's face it, if some people planned and the parents did well and they started 529s or savings plans early on, and when you got to a certain age and you went to college, you had your college set up for and it was funded, then that's great. Some people were good planners. Some people had enough money to do that. And that, oh, here we go. I'm messing with my mic now. And that worked pretty well. Apologize, I had a little mic problem here. Okay, so when you're leading up to the college, as I was saying, a lot of people will save for that. And then they're lucky enough or fortunate enough that then your college is funded. For a lot of people, that's not the case. So your college education is not funded, and now you're getting ready to go to college. And for those that maybe don't get scholarships or grants, a lot of people are getting student loans, which is great because they're out there and they're available, which is wonderful. That's good. The challenging part is it's exciting when you're in school and you're getting those loans and you're securing them and you're starting your education and you're working your way through, and you're not really thinking about them until you get out of school. You're not thinking about those loans until you get out of the school. And then you get out of school, and then you kind of take a deep breath and you figure out, okay, what am I going to do for my career or profession? And I'm ready to dive into the real world. And then as you're diving, you look back right before you get into the water and you think, whoa, what happened? Somewhere along the way, I accumulated $200,000 in student debt. How did I do that? Well, excuse me, it's not that hard to do. It's not that hard to do if you're going to a private college and it's costing you, a lot of private colleges these days are $50,000 to $60,000 minimum a year. Some people in other parts of the country may be thinking, are you kidding me? But, I don't think it matters. There are a lot of schools, I don't care if it's the Midwest, in the East Coast, in the Northeast, wherever. A lot of these private colleges and private schools are $50,000 to $60,000, in some cases without even room and board. So you have a 4-year education, you could see how easily you could rack up $200,000 with student debt. So what about student debt? What do we know about student debt? Well, here's the good thing. Historically, student debt interest rates have been low and good. That has changed. There used to be the day student loans were like 1% and 2% and 3% and very, very good. You didn't have to start paying them until you got out of school, and they're really good. These days, those interest rates are not all that great on student loans. They're really not. So you have that going against you too. And then when you get out of school, you got to put together a schedule, and how are you going to pay these? How are you going to put together a plan to start paying these student loans off? That is really the plan, or what people are faced with when they get out of that. All right, I'm going to take another break. When I come back, I'm going to fix this mic so I don't have this problem again, I hope. During the break, when I come back, we're going to continue talking about debt. I'm going to talk more detailed about mortgage debt and a little bit more detail about student debt and some of the things you got to be careful with. Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Stay tuned with us. 1-800-516-1220 if you want to get your calls on the air. I'll be back in just a couple of minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Hi, this is Joe Kuchera of Real Estate Radio Live. Thanks for tuning into our podcast. We are your go-to resource for all aspects of real estate, including buying, selling, refinancing, building, and legal and tax advice, and much more. You can subscribe to Real Estate Radio Live podcast on iTunes and Stitcher to listen to an engaging discussion about anything and everything real estate. So make sure you get our app, RE Radio Live, in the iTunes store to follow the show.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining me this afternoon. I think we have everything together now. It was one of those days, and first the headsets didn't work, and I didn't know who I was talking to. Thank goodness that the audience could hear me. That's good. I couldn't hear anybody. I couldn't hear the studio. I couldn't hear the engineer, but we are good to go. And that was the first segment. The second segment, then I lost my mic, fell off the stand here, and I was going live holding the mic like it was stand-up comedy going on. Anyway, so we're, I think, back together, and I think everything is working, so hopefully you could hear us and see us, and everything's working good. But, honestly, this is kind of the real world, isn't it? It may be a little bit fake and false if the real stuff didn't happen to all of us every once in a while, and it does for sure. So today I'm talking about debt, understanding debt, and establishing credit. How do you do it? Some of the ways to do it. Good debt, bad debt, and we're going to talk a little bit more about that. If you have any questions during the show here, 1-800-516-1220, or you could text the questions 408-838-9060. One of the things before I jump back in on this topic, you'll hear me say a lot. For almost 8 years now, I've been doing this show, and the focus, the objective from day one was to have a show that educates and informs the consumers. Well, why do you do that, Joe? Well, because that's the way I built my business, my mortgage business. That's the way I've done business in real estate and mortgage for almost 20 years. And I want to bring that same concept. I wanted to bring the same concept to the airwaves. And I pitched the idea to several stations, and the good people at KDOW 1220, the Wall Street Business Network station here in San Francisco in the Fremont area, loved the concept, and here we go almost 8 years later, and it has grown tremendously. And I want to thank, every once in a while, I just want to thank those that have helped the success of this show, from the people at the station that have worked hard to continue working with me and on the show, the producers, the engineers, and also you, the consumers, that continue giving us the feedback, the support, the calls, the encouragement, and all that. So thank you very much. A week doesn't go by, honestly, and this is the best part about this radio show. A week doesn't go by where I don't get, at least 2 to 3. Anywhere from 2 to 3 calls or emails, and they usually start by really use the same way. And they usually start by, "I love your show because," and the because usually is because they learned something. They felt like they were being educated. They felt like they were being informed. They didn't feel like they're being sold on something. I hear that a lot too. I'm tired of tuning into stations and listening to something where it's a full-time commercial. They're trying to sell you something, or there's ads running 24/7. And I understand there's different models out there. So what we do on Real Estate Radio Live is, obviously there's costs associated with this. But the way we subsidize that and the way we work that is with our business partnerships and other things that we could do, so that we're not in your face in a negative way with ads and trying to sell you something to justify this show. So we could bring this value to you every single day, and hopefully it is, from the feedback we get that it is, bring this value to you in many different aspects, in many different ways, to you, the consumer. And so we will have discussions going forward about anything related to real estate. I'm excited. I'm very excited about, as we close out 2017 and 2018. Stay tuned, because we're going to have some really exciting series coming up. I won't disclose them yet, so stay tuned. But we're going to have some professionals and some experts in many different areas that I think they're going to take things to another level in terms of the education, whether it's tax planning, legal planning, more focused groups in terms of real estate. You're also going to benefit by being part of Real Estate Radio Live, tuning in and listening, how you could benefit just by listening to this station and by staying focused and staying tuned with us. You're going to benefit in your entire real estate transactions, you'll see, in the coming year, in 2018. And I'll tell you more and more what I mean by that as we move forward with the partnerships we have. We're going to be able to help you, the consumer, with the entire real estate transaction, including the real estate, the lending, the title and escrow, and much, much more. And I'm excited that we're going to be a continued extension. Real Estate Radio Live is going to be a platform, an extension to offer these services and these programs to you, the consumer, so that you continue to benefit. And we're going to have a lot of that going on. We're also going to be continuing to have conversations about the technology and how technology is changing the real estate industry and lending as well. All right, let me get back on topic here. Debt. We're talking a little bit about debt and an overview. Let me just wrap up student debt a little bit before I move on. The thing that you need to know about student debt, and some people are surprised to hear this, it is the only thing that I know of, and there's probably some other things, that you cannot remove or get rid of student debt. And you might say, what do you mean by that? Well, if you rack up credit cards, or you walk away from a house, you could foreclose on a home, you could rack up credit cards, or get a loan, personal loan, and you could file bankruptcy. Now, it's a blemish on your record, and it's going to be challenging for a while, but you could file bankruptcy and remove those, get those removed. You cannot do that with student loans. That's right. You're hearing that correctly. For anybody out there, if you have a student loan in your name, you cannot get away from that student loan no matter what. There is no filing bankruptcy. There are no provisions. You can't get away from it. it follows you your entire life until you pay it off. And that's the side to the student loans I don't think people really realize until they get out of school and realize what they're up against. Just think about these. And I'm talking a little bit about debt because this is one of the biggest debts you'll service in your life next to a mortgage is student loans. Mortgage is first. That's the biggest debt you'll service in your life. The number 2 biggest debt that you'll service in your life is student loans. Now, here's the other thing to remember about student loans before we move on a little bit. Student loans could go in the parent's name and or the children's name. That's right. Isn't that funny? For those who don't know this, imagine this, okay? Let me set the stage for you here. Imagine this. You're going to school and you're 18 years old, all right? For the most part, depending, not every situation, you fill out these applications as an 18-year-old with no credit, no work history, no income, and they will loan you this money. They'll loan you, in some cases, up to $200,000 over a 4-year period with no job, no credit, no nothing. You would say, why do they do that? Why in the world would they do that? You know, if you weren't in school, if you were 25 years old and you're out of school and you're applying for a $200,000 personal loan or business loan, do you think they would give you that money without any credit or any ability to repay? No. It's a crazy system. Now, I know why it was set up that way, because we all want everybody to be educated, and education is wonderful. It's the best thing in the world to get yourself an education. It's incredible. You always have it. No one could ever take it from you. Education and information, you know, I'm a big fan. The problem is, at what cost? And some people are really second-guessing that at this point, by the way, and that's another story. But remember, you cannot get out of student loans. There's no way out of them. You have to pay them off. They follow you your entire life. They could go in as student's name, or they could go in the parent's name. Some parents, I know, some parents will say, Joe, hey, I got them as far as this goes. This is their deal. If they want to go to school, I don't have the money to do it. Matter of fact, I barely have enough money to retire. Some people say, you're on your own. That happens sometimes, and some parents cover it. Some parents put it under their name, and they're burdened with it. But just understand that those follow you, and they don't go away. So that's enough on student loans. Let's switch gears a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about mortgage. Now let's talk about the mortgage debt. We covered kind of the credit card, personal loans, auto loans, talked a little bit about student loans. Let's talk about mortgage debt. This is, to me, unless you have a business, this to me is the single best debt you could have, is mortgage debt. If you have a business, there's other debt, some ways that it's tax deductible, and we're not going to get into all that. And again, I'm not a CPA, so I'm not going to give advice or tell people what they can write off or what's taxable, what's not. But my intent here is that mortgage debt is the best debt you could have, in my opinion. Now, there are different variations, and I would argue that depending on your age, be careful how much mortgage debt you're carrying. As you get older, the idea is that mortgage debt decreases. And right now, on a primary residence, you have the ability to have 100% tax deductible interest only on your mortgage, to deduct 100% of that interest on your mortgage of up to $1.1 million today. Most of you know that might change. That might drop to $500,000 with this new tax bill that's coming out or that's being proposed. I don't know if that'll happen. I don't know if that'll pass, but that's one of the things they're proposing is a maximum $500,000 tax deductible for mortgage interest. All right, I'm going to take another break. I'm going to come back. I'm going to finish up talking a little bit about debt. If you have any questions, 1-800-516-1220. That's 1-800-516-1220. This is Joe Kuchera with the Real Estate Radio Live. I'll be back with you in just a couple of minutes. For those Facebook people that are following us, stay with us. We'll be back for one more segment in just a couple of minutes.
For more information on today's program, visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
The world is changing, and so is real estate. It's changing in ways that give consumers more control with more affordable options. So what are your options? Hi, this is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. I've been on the air educating and informing consumers for over 7 years now. I'm excited to announce that there is now a more efficient and cost-effective way to buy and sell real estate. Our team at Real Estate Radio Live is launching a new program designed to help buyers or sellers like you in real estate, lending, and title. That's right, we'll coordinate the entire transaction for you. So you benefit by working with the same team, saving time and saving money. We'll guarantee you'll not only be working with the most qualified, hand-picked experts in real estate, lending, and title, but you will also save a significant amount of money in all three services as well. Act now and benefit from changing the world of real estate. Call 408-838-9060. Go to RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com.
Welcome back to Real Estate Radio Live, streaming live on iHeart, TuneIn, and KDOW.biz. For more information on today's topic or guest, just visit RERadiolive.com. That's RERadiolive.com. Again, your host for Real Estate Radio Live, Joe Kuchera.
Welcome back in. Thank you for joining us this afternoon as we wind down the show. Just about 7 or 8 minutes left. Thank you for those tuning in on Facebook. Thank you for those listening on the radio. Thank you for those listening online. And thank you for those that are downloading the podcast and continuing to listen to the show and help it grow to great levels. Thank you again so much. Today the topic is debt and learning a little bit about debt, servicing debt. What's good debt? What's bad debt? As we finish up the show here, if you have any questions, we just have a few more minutes if you want to get your calls on the air, 1-800-516-1220. I have about 3 or 4 questions via text. I won't get to those during the show, but I will answer your text after the show, so thank you for asking those questions about today's show. All right, debt. When I left on the last segment, I want to really finish for the most part talking about mortgage debt. That is, to me, the best debt you could have. That's good debt. I would consider mortgage debt good debt. Now, some people that are advocates about any debt would say, Joe, there is no such thing as good debt. And I would argue, and I would say, yes, there is. Because in my opinion, the way you build wealth, not always, unless you're fortunate to be one of these people that have a bunch of cash and you never need to borrow money, and I get it. There's a small percentage like that, and I understand. So for most people, the way you get wealthy and the way you build wealth and the way you accumulate is you leverage. And with real estate, you leverage. Well, how do you leverage? You leverage with an asset, and I talk about it all the time. With real estate, you have an appreciating asset. Now, in this area, you have an extreme appreciating asset. There's nothing like Silicon Valley and other areas where you have property that has gone up, and so it's unique. But in general, real estate I look at as an appreciating asset, and I talk about this all the time. The beauty about real estate is that when you have that asset, you have that hard, solid, real asset that's growing, typically, right? So if you buy a property for $500,000 and it appreciates an average of 3% a year over the next 10 years, that is quite a bit of appreciation if you do the math. That's what I mean by an appreciating asset. So let me take these side by side. So you have the appreciating asset on one side, the house, the property, right? Then what you do is you get a mortgage on that property. So now you have a mortgage on that appreciating asset. So what do you have? What do you have here? You have the home growing in value. You have the loan that if it's your primary residence, you're getting a tax benefit for. All right? And you're leveraging with someone else's money to buy that asset. Does that make sense? You're going to a bank, and the bank is saying, here, I'm going to give you 80% of what that property is worth. I'll tell you what, Joe, you give me 20% of what that property's worth, right? And I'll give you 80% of what that property's worth, and I'm going to put a lien on it, and that'll be a liability to me and you, of course. But you get to purchase an appreciating asset without paying cash for it. Now, you can pay cash. Some people do. I'm talking about the leverage part. I think the leveraging is a wonderful, exciting concept of real estate. Because then you could leverage more and more real estate with that same concept. And I'm talking about responsibly. When you understand the idea of using money to acquire appreciating assets, and then as that asset grows and increases, you get the benefit of that appreciation. You get the benefit of writing off the interest on the mortgage, and you get the benefit of having to leverage that property with someone else's money. It really is a good situation. And I've seen hundreds and hundreds of people, just that I know personally, grow and develop unbelievable amounts of wealth this way through real estate and strategically doing that. So, to kind of wrap things up and finish this off, you have good debt, bad debt. Bad debt, stay away from credit card debt. If you do have credit cards, try to pay them off. You need credit cards. You need different things to establish trade lines. Do that. Make sure you have those credit cards. Try to pay them off every month if you can. Keep them as a credit to establish credit. The things you want to be careful of. Student debt, real quickly. It's wonderful. It's out there. It's available. Thank goodness, because now you have people that could benefit from that and get wonderful educations. Just know that student debt doesn't go away. It follows you. You're liable for it for the rest of your life. You have to pay it off. You can't file bankruptcy and get rid of that. Okay? That's student debt. Business debt, real quickly. Business is a whole different thing. We primarily today talked about personal debt. Now, when you have a business, it's an entirely different story, and I'm going to do another show at another day on business debt and some of the things that people could benefit that way as well. But I don't have time to do that today. Lastly, mortgage debt, in my opinion, good debt within reason. However, as you get older, you want to make sure that you decrease the amount of mortgage liability you have. $1 million loan is fine if you're 30 or 40 years old or 50. But as you get closer, as you get younger, you're going to want to pay off that debt and hopefully get rid of it. All right, that's all the time we have today. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for checking in. Thanks for following us and watching us. This is Joe Kuchera with Real Estate Radio Live. Stay tuned tomorrow. I'm going to have a licensed appraiser on the show. We're going to talk about property values and much, much more tomorrow. You don't want to miss it. Stay with us, RERadioLive.com. This is Joe Kuchera signing off for the day. Thanks again. Have a great afternoon.
You've been listening to Real Estate Radio Live. For more information on today's program, visit RERadioLive.com. That's RERadioLive.com. Tune in, log in, download our podcast. Discover more at RERadioLive.com. RERadioLive.com.